Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Philadelphia City Council's Committee on Streets and Services. I note that the hour has come. Mr. Pullen, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Ahmad.
Present.
Councilmember Bass.
Present.
Councilmember Brooks.
Present.
Councilmember Harity. Vice Chair Squilla. Chair Young.
Present. Thank you, Mr. Pullen. Also joining us here today is Councilmember Rue Landau. I note for the record that a quorum of this committee is present and this hearing is called to order. This is a public hearing on the Committee on Streets and Services considering testimony on bills numbers 250843, 250946, 250982, 251022, 251025, and 251028. Before we begin, do any of my colleagues have any opening remarks? Seeing none, Mr. Pullen, would you please read the title of the first bill?
Bill number 250843, titled Amending Chapter 10-700 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Refuse and Littering, to require locking dumpsters, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Pullen. Would you please call the first witnesses to testify?
First witness to testify is Crystal Jacob Shipman, Commissioner of the Department of Sanitation.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record and begin with your testimony.
Good morning. I'm Crystal Jacob Shipman, Commissioner of the Department of Sanitation. I'm joined today by Deputy Commissioner Keith Warren, Chairperson Young, and members of the Streets and Services Committee. Thank you for giving us the opportunity today to testify in support of Bill number 250843, sponsored by Councilmember Squilla, to address illegal dumping in the city. This bill amends Chapter 10-700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Refuse and Littering to require locking of dumpsters. Under the bill, licensees must keep dumpster lids locked except when in use or when the dumpster must be open to accommodate a trash chute. The licensee must also keep the area around the dumpster clean and free of any refuse, non-grindable garbage, spillage, or overflow. Currently, the code requires dumpsters to be tightly secured. However, we've seen many incidents in which the dumpsters are pilfered, which contributes to illegal dumping and deteriorating conditions across the city. Unlocked dumpsters invite illegal dumping in the right-of-way. In many cases, the unlocked dumpsters lead to trash overflow and illegal dumping surrounding the dumpsters on the street. It leaves commercial corridors, alleyways, and residential areas dirty and smelly, often with unsightly trash. In 2024, 3,877 code violation notices and 243 contacts and warnings were given for dumpster lids being left open and unsecured. In 2025, so far to date, 5,207 CVNs and 229 contacts and warnings have been given for dumpster lids being left open and unsecured. In 2024, 311 received 1,278 calls with the keyword of dumpster, and so far this year, 311 has received 1,229 calls related to dumpsters. Mayor Sherrell Parker's vision is to ensure that Philadelphia is the safest, cleanest, greenest big city in the nation with access to economic opportunity for all. In her first 100 days in office, Mayor Parker established an action plan to help implement the vision for the city. The action plan has three major goals. One, to create a clean and green cabinet consisting of government officials, industry professionals, businesses, community-based organizations, nonprofit organizations, and community leaders to develop best practices for cleaning and greening the city, combat illegal dumping, reduce waste, and improve the city's environmental footprint. Two, to create a new approach to addressing persistent quality of life issues, short dumping, litter, graffiti, potholes, nuisance properties, and abandoned cars. Responding first to the hardest hit neighborhoods using a public ticker to show progress and partnering with community-led cleanup efforts. And three, to develop and expand key litter prevention programs such as the PHL Taking Care of Business program to cover more commercial corridors, more frequent cleaning of existing corridors, and to increase the number of participating organizations. This bill addresses goal number 2 by adding another tool in the toolbox to prevent littering and illegal dumping, which will keep commercial corridors, and residential areas clean and safe. The combination of these programs is anticipated to make a significant and positive difference and impact on litter, illegal dumping, and other quality of life issues across the city. We could not have made progress without the support of the honorable members of City Council who have supported these efforts to improve the quality of life for all residents who live, work, and visit our city. Together, we are making Philadelphia safer, cleaner, and greener. Again, thank you for this opportunity to testify. At this time, Deputy Warren and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. I do have one question. When there are dumpsters that are in shared use, I'll say, for example, like by tenants inside of like a plaza, these dumpsters are locked. So now will we require the landlord to provide dumpster keys to all the tenants, essentially, to be able to access those dumpsters? And I just say that from where my district office is. There's a dumpster that we all have to share in that plaza. And so if it's locked, then I mean my staff will have to have the key in order to unlock it, in order to dump our trash in there. So you just talk to us about how that will look like.
Good morning. I'm Keith Warren, Deputy Commissioner for Sanitation. Yes, it's the short answer to answer, Councilman. The users of the dumpsters as well as the haulers will probably have to provide keys to everyone to make it usable.
And do you think that if in the passage of this legislation, which I think the goal is laudable, do we need to kind of legislate that, like in order to let landlords know that they are now have to be required to provide keys to these tenants? Because if not, some of these tenants up by my office is next to Pizza Hut. They're just going to throw the bags on top of the dumpsters, next to the dumpsters, if they don't have a key, if we don't have a good landlord that's going to be providing them with keys. So I just think that's something practical that we just have to think about in the implementation of this particular bill.
Generally speaking, I do think that users of the dumpsters now have a process that they're following, and adding a lot to it is just another step. I don't know how detailed we are in regulating people who use shared dumpsters like behind locked fences or in trash rooms, but somehow the users and the haulers are able to figure that out. So I don't know if that would need to be regulated. It should probably certainly be mentioned, but again, I give you the example. There are high-rise buildings down here where several tenants use dumpsters behind locked fences. I don't know how they distribute the keys, but it seems to be working.
Thank you. Are there any questions by members of the committee? Chair recognizes Vice Chair in the presence of Council Member Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you guys for being here and your continued effort to help make our city cleaner. I'm very much supportive of this legislation, but I did receive some questions from some members and providers and challenges. Will we be willing to work with them on basically how something like this would be rolled out? Is it possibly even to do like a pilot or something in the meantime to check out an area to see how it would work logistically and to work with these providers to see how they handle it?
Yes, Councilman Squilla, I do think that this is an opportunity to work with the haulers and work with other partners, possibly to pilot. We could consider a pilot to, see how it works and test it out.
All right, good. I mean, honestly, we know the challenges of open containers. We know what happens with people going in and throwing trash out of them. We know it. Sometimes the owners of the properties that fill these containers overfill them, right? And you mentioned about the citations and things that are given. Sometimes people take that as a cost of doing business. We can't afford to have that as a cost of doing business because it does trash the city and it makes it harder even for the haulers to pick up the trash. So I think there's going to have to be a shared responsibility between the haulers and the owners of these containers. And, years ago, we used to have a medallion feature that was on there, so we knew exactly whose containers are. Sometimes we really are challenged to figure out whose containers they are. And then the other issue would be with the toters, right? So we have toters that are out there. Some of the businesses now use just toters only. I'm not sure of a way of actually how to lock them. And I think, is there something that we could come up with that looks at how those would be secured? And lastly, I just want to bring up something that we've been talking about, which is a pilot in Center City area for new versions of trash pickup. Are we anywhere near legislation to look at that possibility to do a pilot that would do either underground storage or above ground storage in some of these containers done like in Europe?
Yeah, so I'll answer the questions backwards.
Okay.
Yes, we have been in discussion with the law department to see what it would look like to test out or pilot some of the newer style dumpsters that completely hide the trash either underground or provide a more artistic look and feel to a dumpster that is fully enclosed when it's not being operated or used.
For information, those dumpsters or containers are also locked, right? Because they have a code.
Yes.
So nobody could get in them. And the
Correct.
great part about those containers is when each user has a code that they use, the amount of trash can be calculated, and you'll know a tonnage for everybody who puts whatever code they're in. So if they share their code with somebody else, they're going to have to pay for that trash.
That is
goes into
correct.
those
It is the model that we're looking at is a shared use dumpster, so to speak, or piece of equipment, and it is fully locked. A person either comes up with a swipe badge or a code, they type that in, it opens, they can place their trash, it closes behind them, and they go off about go on their way. We definitely do think that, and I'm answering question one, I should have written down question two, but question one, we do think this is a partnership. It should be a partnership. All of these efforts really should be a partnership. And in this case, between the businesses and the haulers who do have a responsibility to maintain those dumpsters in a certain way, and then for the businesses making sure that those properties stay and remain litter-free and are not inviting and welcoming for conditions that are not conducive for doing business or for people to walk past and feel safe and feel like our city is clean. And you have to remind me the second question, Councilman.
The second question was that the toters.
Oh, yes. So I do think there is an opportunity we may have to get creative and do a little bit of work to see how you possibly put locks on a smaller toter, something that is usually removed and emptied a little quicker than, say, a dumpster. Something that doesn't hold as much space. That is something that we could also look into.
And would you be willing to meet with some of these providers and us to go over that to see how? Because basically, I think a pilot would be good. Understanding what is, who is responsible for what and how this would be rolled out. And so I would look forward to meeting with you and some of the haulers to go over those things as this legislation moves forward. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Just one more note on the practicality of this legislation. If dumpsters are required to be locked, this is Philadelphia. Folks will still come and may try to dump their household trash in these dumpsters, and if they get to a dumpster that's locked, they still going to just dump their trash out there, which defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here. So how are we going to kind of regulate or monitor that situation as well?
Well, I think we both have a unique perspective on that. So, I'll give my perspective first, and then the commissioner. So, and that's part of why this regulation would be important. It's not as a punitive thing. If we control access to the dumpster, that eliminates one of the possible perpetrators of the situation. Our goal is to prevent the litter condition around the dumpsters, and currently trying to determine who caused it is a big part of it. But if the dumpsters are locked and the users are using a secure dumpster, we can eliminate them and concentrate our investigations in other places and get to our goal, which is resolving the issue quicker. A lot of times we get these complaints with littered dumpsters, and we have to spend so much time investigating who put it there, how did it get there. This regulation will help us narrow that down some and help us to remove the condition sooner, if that makes sense.
I'm just letting you know, I'm gonna be calling a lot, because I got some plazas in my district that are frequent dump sites, even with dumpsters around it, right? So I'm gonna be giving you guys a call.
The hope is that by the container being locked, some of the perpetrators would then bypass it. When it's an open dumpster, not necessarily we know it's not gonna eliminate the problem, right? We're all aware of that, but we open it to some degree, it will deter and slow down those offenders who see an open door.
Man, if I have a bag of trash with me in my car, I'm not just going to drive somewhere else. I'm going to go to my location where I plan to dump that bag of trash and get that trash out of my car. So,
Well, we do always encourage that you bring them to a sanitation convenience center.
Yes.
We got 6 all around the city, and
Could
we're
you-
open 6 days a
for,
week.
for the record, could you give the folks who are watching those addresses, if you have them, like let them know where they are, because you can, if you're a Philadelphia resident, dump your trash for free. I just want folks to know that.
For
right?
free, 3901 North Delaware Avenue, for Domino Lane in Umbria. We can give you all across the city. 2601 Glenwood. We are here. We're open. Bring your trash.
That information is also available on the city website, phila.gov, and you search for the convenience center, and it's there. Authorized sanitation drop-off center. I feel compelled to say that today. An authorized sanitation convenience center.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Harity.
No, I just want to be recognized I was here.
Sorry. Well, Chair recognizes the presence of Councilmember Harity. Thank you. Are there any other questions of these witnesses? Chair recognizes Councilmember Ahmed.
Not a real question, but like the most beautiful block effort that you do, which is fantastic, could we do something with our owners of these dumpsters to work with you to be innovative and creative, and then keep it up, to have some sort of effort to incentivize them to kind of do this? Maybe this is an offline conversation, but just to think of other ways to engage our community, to say, you're all in this is your block or space, or work with your commercial people here to make this, and you'll get X or Y.
So I do think Andrew Jacobs is one of the people, and we're not related,
Yeah.
but Andrew Jacobs is one of the people that's slated to testify, and he can probably give a really clear example of where we see our haulers, our business owners coming together, and where one of the, I'm gonna call it an alleyway or service alley,
Yeah.
for lack of better words, where you see a really good example of how it was transformed and folks worked together, they beautified that particular area. You don't even know a dumpster exists on that particular
That's right.
roadway. So he can probably speak more
And
to
that
that.
can obviate the problem that Councilmember Young was talking about, people coming from elsewhere and dumping, because there'll be a sense of pride and protection for their own space. So anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there any other questions for these witnesses on this panel? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony
Thank
today.
Thank you.
Mr. Pullen, would you please call the next witness to testify on this bill?
The next witness to testify is Andrew Jacobs, Vice President of Planning and Public Realm at Center City District.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record and give us your testimony.
Andrew Jacobs. Good morning, Chairman Young and committee members. My name is Andrew Jacobs, and I'm the Vice President of Planning and Public Realm at the Center City District. My colleague Prima Gupta asked me to share her regrets for not being able to attend today's hearing, especially since alleys and dumpsters are genuinely among some of her favorite conversation topics. I can truly attest to this. given the amount of trash and trash container and alley photos she manages to send me while she's on vacation. But I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of Bill number 250843, amending Chapter 10700 of the Philadelphia Code to require all dumpsters be locked. This is an important and meaningful first step toward improving alley and sidewalk conditions in Center City, helping create a cleaner, safer, and more welcoming environment for residents, businesses, and visitors. Center City District is an independent, private sector directed authority organized under the Commonwealth's Municipality Authorities Act. We've spent the last 33 years helping keep Center City clean and safe with cleaning crews, community service representatives, homeless outreach professionals, a relatively new public safety patrol, and a unique partnership with the Philadelphia Police Department that includes a substation housed within our offices. Our services supplement but do not replace those of city government. Since early 2024, the Center City District has been working in close partnership with members of the administration's Clean and Green Cabinet, leadership from sanitation, licenses and inspections, the Philadelphia Police Department, and the Parking Authority to confront the persistent quality of life issues that have long affected our alleys and service streets, particularly in Center City. Many of Philadelphia's skinny streets are among some of the loveliest places. Take Elford's Alley, for example, but many are the exact opposite. I'm also struck by the way dirty alleys undermine the work of Center City District's 100 hardworking cleaners who manually or mechanically sweep the sidewalks of the district streets 3 times daily. Also, recently one person emailed our team and wrote, quote, "We can walk the clean streets and sidewalks and then boom, we cross a really disgusting back alley with dumpsters, trash, graffiti, and filth all over." Seeking to learn more about this issue, our team led comprehensive on-the-ground surveys of 45 alleys within the district, evaluating dumpster conditions and their immediate surroundings, as well as documenting additional challenges such as homeless encampments and the presence of drug paraphernalia. In June of this year, we released a report titled Reclaiming Alleys, which summarized some of these findings and offered a series of practical, implementable recommendations aimed at improving the conditions of the alley network that supports the many offices, restaurants, retailers, and residential buildings that drive Center City's economy. Of the 446 dumpsters we surveyed within the study area, the findings were clear. 68% were unlocked or unsealed, 41% had trash beneath or adjacent to them, and 77% lacked the required medallion or visible permit holder information. We also documented homeless activity in 60% of the alleys, and in those locations, 75% of the dumpsters were open or unlocked. These findings reflect the persistent conditions of visual disorder that characterize so many of our alleys, and they have a measurable impact on public perceptions of crime, cleanliness, and safety in Center City. While alleyways are traditionally viewed solely as service corridors for waste haulers, nearly 25% of alley entry and exit points studied actually serve as pedestrian pathways to the primary entrances for residents, employees, and even hotel guests. It's evident that these alleys, where most dumpsters are located, serve a critical, multifunctional role in Center City's infrastructure as part of the pedestrian network that knits our downtown together. Ultimately, our work made clear that the core issue is not the alleys themselves, but the dumpsters. The vast majority were in violation of existing city code. In response, representatives from multiple city agencies launched an outreach and enforcement campaign along priority alleys to educate business owners about their responsibilities and proper dumpster maintenance. Follow-up surveys showed measurable improvements. More dumpsters were sealed or even locked, litter levels declined, and compliance with visible permit holder requirements increased. Simply put, this initiative is working, and increasing the resources dedicated to outreach and enforcement around proper dumpster maintenance at a meaningful scale would produce timely and significant improvements in the conditions of our alleys and service streets. The amendment proposed in this bill, which would require dumpsters to be locked, represents a decisive, practical, and important step toward reclaiming these spaces, enhancing quality of life, and strengthening the pedestrian network that supports Center City businesses, residents, and visitors. We also recognize that members of the Waste Hauling Committee have raised operational concerns about this requirement, particularly regarding the addition of locks to dumpsters and the extra time needed to service them. However, our extensive survey work shows that many businesses have already taken it upon themselves to lock their dumpsters using simple chains and padlocks to reduce the persistent quality of life challenges in these alleys. For example, of the 40 dumpsters recorded on the 1500 block of Moravian, not far from this building, this past September, half were already locked. This demonstrates that a workable system is already in practice, and this bill would simply ensure a uniform standard across the city. Furthermore, reducing litter and illegal dumping are core priorities of the city's Clean and Green initiative, and this legislation is essential to achieving those goals, both on our streets and throughout the public right-of-way. We have a clear choice before us. While requiring dumpster lids to be locked will introduce some operational friction at the outset, the benefits of this legislation will clearly surpass those short-term inconveniences. By ensuring a cleaner and safer public realm, this measure will deliver substantial returns for business owners, residents, and visitors alike. In short, the modest adjustments proposed today will quickly prove their worth. As we approach 2026, with millions of people expected to visit Philadelphia for America's 250th, the World Cup, and other major events, the urgency of this work could not be clearer. Now is the moment to act so that those visitors return home eager to come back, and Philadelphians can look ahead with renewed pride in the cleanliness, safety, and vitality of our city. Thank you, Chairman Young, and thank you to the members of the committee for your commitment to addressing this issue through the proposed legislations. I also want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to testify this morning and for your thoughtful consideration. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. In your report on reclaiming alleys, I just saw that you observed 21 different waste hauling companies. Could you talk about the effect that, I guess, that many companies would have in your jurisdiction in Center City?
Sure, and just to clarify that we counted the labels on the dumpsters, and that qualified, so there could be more, but of the 21, we also noticed that 3 haulers represented 65% of the dumpsters. So essentially that led us to understand that there are certain blocks with 6 or 7 haulers on that block, which means 6 or 7 trips, possibly in a single day, to empty those dumpsters. And so we just wanted to make aware of the sheer number of waste haulers that are operating within our district.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We know that some cities and municipalities have like zone pickup. Certain haulers have certain zones. Do you think, and we could talk with sanitation also, do you think that zoned hauling is something that we could do here in the city to make it easier and cleaner to pick up?
Yeah, I think that there's some good precedents in other cities that this has been a very effective way to manage the waste collection, especially in dense urban areas. So other cities have used, an RFP process, if you will, to sort of collect, to get certain haulers and to pick up within certain districts within districts. So I think there's certainly precedents to look forward to potentially exploring that option in Philadelphia and Center City in particular.
Yeah, and I think that, we mentioned earlier with Commissioner Jacobs, the possibility of doing a pilot for the European style trash pickups where they have the containers that get hauled, and I think maybe that would be a good way to start the zones. Certain haulers would be able to compete or go an RFP for zones and be able to select what zones they could pick up trash. And maybe that's another way that we could look at this to improve our trash pickup and the mess that's associated with it. Some of our alleys are actually look worse than third world countries when you go up there. So I think we definitely need to do something, and so I'm excited to hear these new ideas come to fruition. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Pullen, would you please call the name of the next witness to testify on bill number 250843?
The next witness to testify is Dominic Fulgenetti, Municipal Sales Manager for Republic Services.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record and begin with your testimony.
Thank you, Councilmember and Chair. My name is Dominic Fulgenetti, and I represent Republic Services. And I'm here to testify regarding City Council Bill 25843. And I'd first like to state that all the goals that have been outlined over the past 10, 15 minutes we're in full support of. Everything that Ms. Shipman spoke about, we agree with in general. Really, what we're here to do today is basically ask for the city to consider a pilot program to test the effectiveness of any type of legislation. And the reason for that is, not to reiterate, but all the questions that we had laid out last night, such as who'd be responsible for the locks, who would install them, who would unlock the containers, and specifically the cart issue is probably the biggest thing that is at the forefront of our minds. We have about 5,000 customers, and that would mean about 10,000 carts. So it's a large endeavor for for any hauling company, but us in particular. And the main thing that we're concerned with is that while the goals are laudable, all the devil's in the details. So we want to make sure that any legislation permits smooth and operationally good way to collect the trash and keep the streets clean. So if you have any questions.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So you would be supportive of a pilot to work this out and work with the city on best practices to move forward?
Yeah, due to the sheer number of different types of containers, the different types of street layouts, a pilot program would be the best way for us to evaluate what systems and strategies would work best. Again, we are in support of keeping the streets and alleyways trash-free.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, Vice Chair Squilla. Just can you let us or talk to us about the number of different types of containers that are out there?
Well, you'd have 3 different types of toters. So there's different mechanisms there, and then you'd have probably 10 different types of commercial steel containers. And they vary from front load to roll off, probably 3 different types of trucks to collect them. So again, the devil's in the details of what it would look like. And it may look different in Fairmount than it would in, say, east of Broad Street. So it's gonna be very localized.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in chambers wishing to testify on bill number 250843? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Pullen, would you please read the title of the next bill?
Bill number 251022, titled amending section 9-208 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sidewalk Cafes to revise standards and requirements associated with sidewalk cafes, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Would you please, before we start, the sponsor of the legislation, Councilmember Landau, is present. Would you like to make some opening remarks?
I would. Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Chair Young, and the entire Streets Committee. Today, my Sidewalk Cafe bill will be presented to this committee for your consideration. Over the summer and throughout the fall, I've been meeting with restaurant operators and district council members all over Philadelphia. Time and time again, I heard the same story and saw the same solution. Owners told us that current outdoor dining program is not working for small businesses. Most find it confusing and cumbersome, and changes must be made. Many cited a need for process improvements, legislative amendments, and a removal for the need of an ordinance to put tables and chairs on the sidewalk. Outdoor dining can and should be the easiest, lowest barrier option for a restaurant or cafe to offer outdoor dining to their customers. But that's not the case right now. Instead, it can take months to get a sidewalk cafe ordinance, and that's the best case scenario. Some stories we heard cited that the process can take over a year or more. My bill is just a common sense solution to a problem that is affecting businesses throughout the city. It's cutting out red tape, making this process easier to navigate, simpler to understand, and quicker to service. This program is a low-cost, high-impact economic development tool, especially when it comes to job creation, boosted revenue, commercial corridors vibrancy, and it bolsters disability access. Expanding outdoor dining also supports local restaurants and creates more opportunities for neighborhood businesses to thrive during peak tourism seasons, which we're going to see a lot of in just a few months. When summer 2026 rolls around, we need to have tables and chairs outside to best support these small businesses. Tourists and visitors are expecting to travel through our streets, sit down for a nice meal, and experience all that Philly has to offer. Other cities with successful tourism economies have leaned into outdoor dining as part of their visitor experience. We should too. Businesses still go through all of the proper application steps to get a license to open a sidewalk cafe that meets the guidelines. They still need to go through streets, L&I, and health. This isn't removing the need for an application. This is clearing up the process to get there. It's making streets safer, businesses thrive, and creating a Philadelphia that people want to be in. This does not get rid of the need for a permit or the application process. District council members remain key partners. The program is structured to allow for coordination with local priorities and needs. Accessibility will not be compromised. Community input will not be compromised. We are building a more inclusive experience for Philadelphia, and I appreciate all of those who have come out to testify today. Each member of this committee has been given a letter of support for the Sidewalk Cafe legislation. These letters include 65 signatures from owners and operators of various businesses all over the city, business improvement districts, and the diverse chambers of commerce. I look forward to answering any possible questions or clearing up any hesitations around this bill. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Vice Chair Schooler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do want to thank Councilmember Landau for her efforts as, you know, we met with a lot of communities in my district and to be able to share this opportunity. And even though some are not on board yet, there were some that wanted to join in and be a part of this, and it's a credit to Councilmember Landau and her staff for taking the time to do that, Jeff and the whole team that was out there. It's important that people's voices be heard in this process, and we really appreciate the effort made as this legislation moves forward, so thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Bass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. And I too want to applaud my colleague, Councilwoman Landau, on working on legislation to really cut red tape, because that's what is just, it's so important that folks have confidence in government. And the amount of red tape, the many, many steps, it's very, very frustrating. And because bureaucracy and red tape is so frustrating, you know, it sends some people to go elsewhere. It makes people go elsewhere and do other things. But I would say equally frustrating, if not more so, is living near a bad neighbor who happens to have a restaurant license. Under the proposed bill, that bad neighbor can now expand their disruptive operation onto the sidewalk. This is unacceptable, and in my opinion, this completely cuts out the community from having a say about this bad neighbor having even more of an impact on the neighbors' daily lives. Anything or any bill that essentially takes away a say from the community in the 8th District is unfortunately going to be a no for me. So while I applaud anyone who is a supportive, you know, of this effort, because I get what the broader ideal is, but for me, the 8th District will be excluded, although I intend to support my colleagues and vote the bill out of committee. You know, I think of stop and goes primarily, who happen to have a restaurant license. They'll be able to now move their foolishness from inside the stop and go out on the sidewalk. And so until we can get better controls and better handles and make sure that the community has very much a say in terms of what's going into their neighborhood, because they're the ones who are there, they're the most affected. If something goes wrong, you know, they're the ones who are up all night because the business, you know, is having a party on the sidewalk all night long. And again, I know that this is for the vast majority of businesses. That's not the case. I'm speaking really specifically about a very small number of businesses, primarily stop and goes, which have restaurant licenses, which will be able to qualify under this bill. So, you know, Unfortunately, the 8th District would be excluded, but I applaud your effort in trying to work on this. And also, I'll be happy to work with you and any others to address what is holding up and what are the many, many steps that send businesses elsewhere rather than operating an outdoor cafe, rather than being able to operate an outdoor cafe and go through the steps that we currently have in place. So what is it? Why is it taking so long? Why does it take months? Why does it take years? How do we fix that? I think is really something that I'm happy to work with you on in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Ahmed.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Member Landau. You and I have had long conversations about this, albeit very recently. I have the same concern my colleague has, and I expressed that to you. I just wanted to see if there's a mechanism put into place that could respond to that. So we're streamlining this, making this easier for people to enjoy and have a larger footprint for the restaurant. What are we doing when things don't go well? Is there something that we have set in place that will go into operation when there's a complaint or there's a credible complaint and we need to act on it? What measures do we have in place to address that, and how quickly will that happen? Because we are streamlining this, we need to have the entire process streamlined. If you would respond to that, please.
Thank you, Chair. Recognize Councilmember Landau.
Sure, thank you both for this. We've had Councilmember Bass, you and I have talked many times, and Councilman Ahmed just this morning on this. The district council people who put areas into the bill did their due diligence before they did this, and so they're actively involved in this. What I didn't say was that through the months that we have spent talking to restaurant owners and the bids and the civics and everyone else, is that I've also had ongoing conversations with streets, L&I, health, and commerce, often together, talking about the process, talking about how we're going to streamline it. And we'll hear from them. I think they've got a real incentive now. They know that the administration is supporting this. They know that we're about to have 500,000 people here in Philadelphia, and that our process has to go faster, that we can't allow somebody to wait well over a year to get a sidewalk cafe license because they won't even have seats outside for 2026 if they submitted that application today. What is the most important thing is that we've heard ongoing complaints about the city not reacting quickly enough or thoroughly enough on nuisance businesses. Councilmember Bass, you bring this up all the time, and we have a Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson who has actually put in some provisions to help curtail this. This is an ongoing issue with nuisance businesses that we need to get a handle of in general with the administration. This doesn't have to do, most bad actors are not asking permission from the city of Philadelphia to put some tables and chairs outside. They don't follow the rules. They break the rules and they don't believe there's consequences. We do have to show them that there's consequences. In my review of the existing law in the Philadelphia Code for sidewalk cafes, I believe that there are provisions that the city can use to remove, to disallow outdoor seating. And in fact, in particular says that the Department of License and Inspections, if they determine that the sidewalk cafe is no longer being used properly, or the sidewalk cafe is being operated in violation of any ordinance, rule, or regulation of the city of Philadelphia, that's it. I would actually suggest that the L&I might have greater authority to do more on a sidewalk cafe than it does in our process of giving people 3 chances to be, when they're deemed a chronic nuisance before we go any further. So this is in the sidewalk cafe ordinance as is. What we need and what we've been looking for is partnership with the departments for increased enforcement. I think we're getting there. You'll hear from them. I think we got them on the right page. And so I would suggest that the bad actors are not asking permission anyway. The bad actors are often not bringing their bad actions outside, to remain outside. And this is for the greater good for the city of Philadelphia, plus everybody, every district council member who put in areas of their districts did so after a thorough process. And so we're really happy and excited about who is in. And I know that we will be successful next year with the partnership that we have with the admin. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I would like to mention is that we all want greater enforcement for a lot of the quality of life issues that we face here in the city of Philadelphia. Unfortunately, we just haven't gotten that opportunity, whether it's LNI or the police or whatever other agency that does enforcement. And so I just want to put that on the record that we all support that. Ultimately, we have to figure out how we can get there to that greater enforcement by these agencies that are tasked with the with enforcing. So, Chair recognizes Councilmember Bass.
Thank you. Thank you, and I applaud your work. Clearly, you've done a lot of research on this. I want to speak just briefly, though, to the practicality of what, as a district council member, I've been dealing with for quite some time now. We passed the nuisance business legislation in 2016, and we passed the stop and go legislation in 2017. And we still cannot get the level of enforcement from most of the agencies in the city that you mentioned. We have great working relationships with them, but when it comes to closing nuisance businesses, it is a problem. And you know, we just have not seen any level of enforcement. It just does not exist. And until we get the level of enforcement that we need listen, I've been out on tours with LNI and with the health department. I won't say commerce or streets, but I know LNI and health. We've been out knocking on doors, talking to business owners, and have not received any level of enforcement that we actually need to be able to address what's happening in those neighborhoods. And so while I get what you're saying, but the practicality of it is, it's just not happening and it's just not working. And so I'm just going to leave it right there.
Thank you, Council Member. Mr. Pullen, would you please call the first witnesses to testify on this bill?
The first witnesses to testify are Zach Pizik, Senior Director of Public Affairs for the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, Yael Tesher, Program Manager for the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Ryan Mulholland, Director of Operations at Cook and Solo Restaurant. My apologies. The first witness to testify are Richard Montanez, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Streets, Justine Bolkus, Senior Director of Business Advocacy for the Department of Commerce, and Michael Numas, 2026 Director for the City of Philadelphia. Yeah.
Oh, we're rotating? Okay. I think we're rotating with for a second. Come on.
Should I leave? I don't know.
Yes. Thanks, John.
Good morning, Mr. Montanez. Please state your name for the record and begin with your testimony.
Good morning, Chairman Young and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Richard Montanez. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 251022, introduced by Councilmember Landau. This ordinance amends Section 9-208 of the code by expanding the permitting of sidewalk cafes to be maintained by right in various council districts. Sidewalk cafes consist of placing only tables and chairs on the public right-of-way. Under this bill, new geographic boundaries for sidewalk cafes will be established. These new boundaries include Wattsford Ave, both sides, Missioner Ave to Cedarbrook Ave, Washington Ave, both sides, Broad Street to 25th, Snyder Ave, both sides, Broad Street to 25th, within the geographic boundaries of the 3rd Councilmatic District, Market Street, north side from 63rd Street to 54th Street, Torresdale Ave from Unruh Ave to North Street, Ridge Ave from South Ferry Road to Calumet Street, Midvale Ave from Ridge Ave to Conrad Street, Washington Ave from Broad Street to 25th, Washington Ave from Broad Street to Christopher Columbus Boulevard, Point Breeze Ave from Federal Street to Moore Street, West Passyunk Ave from Broad Street to 23rd Street, Snyder Ave from Broad Street to 25th Street, Woodland Ave from 58th Street to 68th Street, Ogons Ave from Cheltenham Ave to 67th Ave, and within the boundaries, geographic boundaries of the Manayunk Special Services District. This bill also allows the applicants to use the adjacent property for the sidewalk cafe so long as the application obtains permission from the business or property owner adjacent. The hours of operations would also change. The sidewalk cafes can only operate until 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. The Department of Streets is not opposed to the proposed legislation so long as the sidewalk cafes comply with the laws, rules, and regulations of the city, and specifically those of the Department of Streets, the Department of License and Inspections, and the Art Commission. Maintaining accessible, walkable right-of-way is important to the Streets Department, and we encourage sidewalk cafes to comply with the latest public right-of-way accessibility guidance, federal regulations. Thank you for your opportunity to appear before you. I will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Newman, please state your name and give us your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Young, members of the committee, and Councilmember Rue Landau. My name is Michael Newmis, 2026 Director for the City of Philadelphia, testifying on Bill number 251022. Thank you to this committee for your continued leadership, including making Philadelphia a more accessible, more business-friendly, and more competitive destination as we prepare to host so much, but also really competing against other cities across the country and North America who are also hosting games like the FIFA World Cup. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of this important legislation to expand outdoor dining opportunities across our city. This initiative is an important tool in preparing Philadelphia, including our small and local businesses, for the historic year ahead as we commemorate America's 250th anniversary. The 250th of our nation's independence is so much more than a moment to reflect on the past. It is a mandate to invest in our future. Philadelphia, as the birthplace of the nation, will be the center of the celebration, hosting major events that will draw global attention, including the FIFA World Cup and its 500,000 expected visitors, MLB All-Star Game, a citywide Art Philly Festival, and so much more. But in addition to these tentpole events, we have a hyper-local focus in spreading the spirit of celebration across Philadelphia through our Ring It On initiative and in partnership with City Council. Our neighborhoods will come alive with activations, beautifications, celebrations across our various commercial corridors, that we will showcase the vibrancy of our neighborhoods across every single council district, inviting visitors and residents to explore what makes Philly so special. And there's really no greater way to explore the cultural vibrancy than through our incredible, vibrant food opportunities. This legislation, which seeks to streamline the process for establishing sidewalk cafes, is a critical tool to ensuring that the benefits of 2026 expand to all Philadelphians and that our businesses can compete against businesses in other cities who are also marketing themselves to be center stage for the World Cup. By cutting red tape and creating consistent rules, we are empowering our local and small businesses, the backbone of our economy, to thrive and to compete. Outdoor dining not only enhances the vitality of our neighborhoods, but also fosters economic growth, strengthens community connections, and creates welcoming spaces for residents and visitors alike. The investments we're making today are not simply because companies coming to Philadelphia. They're because we believe in the potential of our city and its people and want to continually position them to do just that. This legislation is about positioning Philadelphia for long-term success, ensuring that our businesses and our communities are empowered to benefit, not just in 2026, but for the years to come. In closing, I encourage you to support this legislation as a vital step towards a stronger, more vibrant Philadelphia. Let us seize this moment to honor our past, invest in our future, and ensure that the 250th America's Independence is a celebration worthy of the city. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Numis. Ms. Bokus, please state your name for the record and begin with your testimony.
Good morning, Chairman Young and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Justine Bolkus. I'm Senior Director of Business Advocacy for the Department of Commerce. I'm here to testify on Bill number 251022, which expands the commercial areas in which sidewalk cafes can operate by right. The Department of Commerce strives to expand economic opportunity for all, including making it easier to do business in Philadelphia. This legislation aims to minimize confusion on which boundaries are attached to particular outdoor dining type. We appreciate City Council's continued efforts to align outdoor dining processes in Philadelphia. As a reminder, sidewalk cafes can only include tables and chairs, not equipment like bus bins or beverage tables. The Mayor's Business Action Team continues to be the Commerce Department's front door for small businesses, providing one-on-one assistance to help businesses navigate city services, programs, licenses, permits, and regulations, including outdoor dining. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Just have a question about the neighboring property owner. In what form does the applicant need to get permission of the neighboring property owner?
We will be replicating the same form we used during the COVID years, where you could expand your sidewalk cafe to your neighboring, to the adjacent property, so long we got the approval from them.
And is the neighboring property owner allowed to charge the applicant for this use of this space?
That's a thing between both property owners. The city's just allowing you to expand your sidewalk cafe.
And who's responsible? So I guess they're in the applications, essentially, if someone were to get hurt on the adjacent property from the sidewalk cafe, I'm sure there's some indemnity agreements or things like that that may be in place to indemnify that adjacent property owner from any suits that may arise from the expansion.
I know that in a sidewalk cafe permit, they indemnify the city.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that indemnification also expands to the adjacent property owner.
And I think that's a question I think that we need to answer, because we could be now opening up non-restaurant owners, right, to particular suits if something were to happen from the expansion of that restaurant next door. So I do think that's something that we need to explore to make sure that if a neighbor wants to be a good neighbor and allow a restaurant to expand, that they're indemnified, they're covered to make sure that they don't have any additional expenses that will be associated with that. So I do think that's something that we definitely should explore as a body as well. Are there any questions of these witnesses by members of the committee? The chair recognizes Councilmember Ahmed.
Thank you, Chair. Question about demarcation of these areas, because there are specific areas within districts, not the entire district. Is there going to be a public kind of engagement process to make sure people don't think if it's one location, it's the entire space? Or how will people know where the zone ends and the other begins to make sure there are no violations in other spaces? Is there a way to address that in this effort?
Justine, you want that one with your public, with your corridor people?
Thank you, Councilmember. The Department of Commerce has our Mayor's Business Action Team, and they can inform businesses if they are permitted to operate a sidewalk cafe or not.
So there will be some sort of engagement process to let people know who can and who cannot, because obviously not, in some of the districts, it's not the entire district. It's certain demarcated areas, which means if you don't know where that line is, somebody else might think, oh, I can too, right? If you're outside that zone. So I just wanted to make sure people don't get into trouble by thinking this is happening. And so we need a robust engagement process to make sure people know what they can or cannot do, particularly businesses.
Yes, we can look into that, and we will also be creating a new sidewalk cafe guide that can help inform people.
All right, thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Bass.
Just a quick question. What has been done by the city to ensure community, support, approval, participation in the process to go from, what is currently a process that does require community support and participation to one that now doesn't? I don't know if Commerce, or has there been anything that we've done to just ensure that people in the neighborhood are okay with, let's say, if you've got like a small corner bar with a restaurant license, and now they want to, operate on the sidewalk around them, and it may be a very nice, operation, or it might not be. So how is Commerce looking at that to ensure participation? Is there a mechanism at all, or is that something being worked on maybe? Or?
Commerce isn't a part of the permitting or the licensing process, but I believe there is a posting requirement for sidewalk cafes.
Okay. So that notifies the community that it's coming. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of these witnesses by members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pullen, would you please call the next witnesses to testify on this bill?
The next witness to testify is Zach Pizik, Senior Director of Public Affairs for the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, Yael Tasher, Program Manager for the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Ryan Mulholland, Director of Operations at Cook and Solar Restaurant.
Zachary Pizik. Good morning, Chairperson Young, Vice Chair Squilla, members of the Committee on Streets and Services. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Zachary Pizik. I'm the Senior Director of Public Affairs for the PRLA, the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. We represent restaurants, hotels, the broader travel and tourism industry here in Philadelphia and statewide throughout the Commonwealth. This past summer, a small family-owned restaurant in South Philly set out a few tables on the sidewalk during a weekend event. Much better weather that day than we're seeing today. You know the name of the restaurant if I shared it. Just 4 or 5 seats, some string lights, and a handwritten menu. By 7 p.m., the block came alive. Neighbors gathered, conversations were flowing, and the owner told us that just those few outdoor seats turned what would have otherwise been a slow night into a much more profitable one. You've probably heard similar stories like this, and it reflects what we hear from businesses across the city, that outdoor dining helps create vibrancy, supports small businesses, and builds communities. For an industry like ours, competing with cities across the globe, there is power to outdoor dining. Beyond just the tables and the chairs, outdoor dining represents excitement, vibrancy, safety, jobs, and the sense of a welcoming city. And as we prepare to welcome millions of international visitors for a record-breaking 2026, these are either opportunities or potentially missed opportunities. If we get it right, people come back and they spend their money here in Philadelphia. If we don't, then they won't. Where they eat, and particularly how they eat, is critical to the stories that they tell when they return home and the memories that they make here in Philadelphia. PRLA strongly supports the proposed reforms to the Sidewalk Cafe ordinance, and we can't thank Councilmember Landau and team enough for their leadership and their efforts in this space. These updates are necessary. We feel they're overdue and central to ensuring that Philadelphia presents its best self to residents and visitors. Sidewalk cafes should be the easiest, most accessible way for a restaurant to offer outdoor seating. Yet today, the process, as we've heard, can be confusing, it can be slow, and often, too often, far out of reach, especially for smaller businesses that are oftentimes the ones that are going to be more under-resourced. What should be a straightforward permit process can often take a year or more due to legislative recess, inconsistent communication, or unclear requirements. This reality stifles growth, and it prevents too many neighborhoods from enjoying the cultural and economic benefits that outdoor dining can bring. This legislation helps fix that by providing expanded by right access to many more neighborhoods from Manayunk to North Philly who can now participate without the need for individual ordinances, a streamlined, predictable application process with clearer standards, aligned operating hours, and greater transparency as applications move through various departments in government, better opportunity for so many minority and immigrant-owned restaurants, a citywide readiness plan for 2026 when outdoor dining will play a central role in how Philadelphia looks, feels, and welcomes the world. And this bill doesn't just serve Center City. It opens the door for other neighborhood corridors across the city. Outdoor dining is economic development, it is public safety, and it is one of the simplest tools we feel in the industry that the city has to strengthen our commercial corridors. The reforms before you balance the needs of pedestrians, accessibility, and the public right-of-way with the realities that are facing small businesses. They create standards that the city can enforce fairly and consistently, and they help Philadelphia compete with peer cities that have already modernized and embraced outdoor dining as a core part of their identity. PRLA kindly urges the committee to move the legislation forward without delay. We hope to give Philadelphia the outdoor dining framework that it deserves, one that works not only for owners and operators, but also reflects the city's future. With the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding, the FIFA World Cup, and the MLB All-Star Game all on the horizon, Philadelphia will soon be on the global stage again. We hope to ensure that our streets and the Michelin city that we are reflect the energy and hospitality that we've become known for. Improvements to outdoor dining is going to be one of the clearest, most visible ways that we can do that. So thank you very much for your time and consideration. We stand ready to support implementation and outreach in partnership with the city in any way we can.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Ms. Thatcher, please state your name and give me your testimony.
Thank you. Good morning, Council. And thank you, Councilman Landau, for introducing this important legislation. My name is Yael Thatcher, Program Manager at the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We work closely with many restaurants across the city and are proud producers of Dine Latino Restaurant Week, an initiative we have carried out since 2021 to promote and support Latino-owned dining establishments. Our experience and the voices of the businesses we serve align with what the Diverse Chamber Coalition Small Business Surveys constantly show, that most small business owners would not recommend Philadelphia as a place to do business. The reasons are clear: high costs, complex permitting, and public safety concerns. These challenges create real barriers for entrepreneurs, especially minority and immigrant-owned businesses, who are vital to our city's economy and cultural fabric. The current approval process for sidewalk cafes tells a tale of two cities. In some neighborhoods, often the more affluent ones, business owners enjoy streamlined, by-right permitting. Meanwhile, in many other corridors, businesses face a lengthy, costly, and confusing process that can take months or even years to complete. This disparity is not equitable. It penalizes small businesses and neighborhoods that need economic development the most and reinforces a system where opportunity depends on the zip code your business is located in. Sidewalk cafes should be the simplest way for a restaurant to add seating, hire more workers, and serve its community. Instead, the current system stifles growth and discourages investment. Reforming this process is not just about convenience, it's about fairness, competitiveness, and preparing Philadelphia for 2026 when the world will be watching. Outdoor dining signals a vibrant, welcoming city. It strengthens commercial corridors, improves safety, and generates revenue that supports essential services. By passing this legislation, City Council can ensure that every neighborhood, not just the wealthiest, has access to these benefits. Thank you for your leadership and for the opportunity to testify. We stand ready to work with you and the Parker administration to make Philadelphia a city where small businesses can thrive everywhere.
Thank you. Please state your name and give me your testimony.
Ryan Mulholland, Chairperson Young, Vice Chair Squilla, and Councilmember Landau, and all the members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ryan Mulholland. I'm the Director of Operations with Coke and Solo Restaurants, including Zahav, Dizengoff, our newest restaurant, Jaffa Bar, Goldie, Kafar. As I'm sure many of you know, restaurants are an incredibly integral part of the fabric of Philadelphia. We are the first handshake for many visitors. We're the first impression, we're often the last impression before people take off to the airport and get in their car. Sidewalk
Cafes are part of that fabric. They're part of a first impression. They create energy. They create comfort. Some people see activity outside of a restaurant, it gives them confidence to go in, whereas they might be uncertain if they're going to walk in the door. There's nothing like seeing somebody sitting on the sidewalk and multiple neighbors greeting them as they're walking by. It's a sense of community. It's a place where people can connect and help establish that this restaurant is part of their community. The by right component of the legislation, I think, is great to make it easier. The component of the legislation to just make it predictable is, I think, personally, much more intriguing. The idea that I can lease a property, I can look at the way that it's set up, the sidewalk space, how it's arranged, and know, based on the legislation, I can put 6 tables outside. Currently, if I lease a restaurant, there is an uncertainty there. I might get turned down. Maybe I can have tables outside. Maybe the neighborhood says no. I've been part of opening more than 7 concepts in the city since I moved here in 2012. There hasn't been a community meeting that I've gone to where the acts of someone else has slowed down my ability as a good actor to be able to either have tables or have music or even have my windows open. And I would encourage you to not punish, if that's the right word, or make the people that are going through the proper channels, behaving correctly, creating what we want from our restaurant community in the city, to hold them back because of some people that are behaving poorly. Every community meeting where I've had to slow down putting tables outside, it's generally been because of a nuisance bar somewhere else that does have tables outside. And for me to not have the ability to do something because of another bad actor when we're playing by the rules and doing everything we can to create a wonderful environment for our community, it is a frustrating thing as a business. So I would urge you to consider pushing this forward. I think it's a benefit. Find other avenues to correct the actions of the people that are not behaving, and not have it be on the businesses that are trying to do it the right way, follow the rules, go through all the steps. I appreciate your time. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Just a question regarding, you mentioned, just for Mr. Mulholland, you mentioned the bad actors and how the city should be finding ways to penalize and target those specific bad actors. But in the sense of where these cafes, sour cafes, are opening up at, can you just talk to us about what specifically you think the city can do to target those bad actors rather than, how you say, penalizing the ones that are good actors, right? Because the ones without this before this legislation, you have to apply. There's a process where the community has some say, as you mentioned, right? You've gone to these meetings. How can the community then hold these applicants accountable, right? To the quality of life issues, if the process is a by right process.
So I'll give you an example. Jaffa Bar on North Howard Street. I sat in front of a community board of about maybe 15 or 20 people, and that's just we're in actually the south eastern corner of Kensington there. And they had no problem with us as a restaurant group. They were excited that we were going to be there. Their issue was with a bar down the street and with parking. And so because of the bar down the street and because somehow seats outside would be maybe got in the way of their parking, they decided not to give us their go-ahead. And I mentioned that just to kind of point out that it's not necessarily always a justified reason for why places are being slowed down. Now, as far as the penalty goes, I will tell you that nobody values anything more as a business owning a restaurant R license than their restaurant R license. And I'm sure if there was a bunch of other restaurants in here, they would probably say, do not say this. But if you threaten their restaurant R license with how their behavior is, that's how they make money.
Yeah, unfortunately, we on the city level don't have that ability, right? That's a state given granted license. So we don't have the ability to threaten their license. We would have to call the Liquor Control Board, state police, all those types of folks to get involved, which then takes time. It doesn't allow us on a local level to really enforce the things that are happening. So I understand what you're saying. I get that concern completely, but that doesn't help us out. I'm just thinking about a couple of restaurants that have our licenses in my district, but I won't even call them a restaurant, right? Because they essentially just sell alcohol and oodles of, ramen noodles, right? And if they're allowed, and I'm thinking of some vibrant or up-and-coming commercial corridors where these stores still exist, and if they're allowed to then set up shop outside by right, all the quality of life issues that you mentioned that those residents complained about, are going to come to fruition. I think that that's something that we should take into consideration because those residents, they live there. They live in that community. So parking is a concern for them. I think that's a legitimate concern. You say it's not a business, it shouldn't be a business concern. I think it is, right? Because as a business owner, you have to take those things into consideration when you're deciding to open up a restaurant, when you make that risk, right? That's something that you have to take into consideration in order, as you're costing out your business. Those quality of life issues are important to those residents who are going to be your customers, right? And so I think those are things that we need to keep in mind as we go through this process. And I do think in certain places, it's great to have this buy right process. But I represent some of the most challenging parts of this city. And to have those buy right processes there would create even more of a quality of life issues in those communities than they're already existing now. And so as you know, Philly's a city by neighborhood, right? It's a neighborhood by neighborhood city. You cross the street, it's a whole different area, a whole different feel in the community. And I really think that, some of the places that are in this legislation will be great. And I think allowing the community to have some say, I don't think it's a negative, I'll say that. I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that the communities, because they have to live with the consequences of their actions, whether they just vote for it or not, but they had some say in that. They had the ability to say, you know what? We caused this on ourselves. We decided to allow this to happen in our community, right? So I just want that to be, on the record so folks can get a sense of where, some of the, I won't say opposition to it because there's no opposition to the bill, right? The folks support it, but some of the concerns, right, that people may have in some of the districts throughout the city. Again, certain places, certain neighborhoods, it's great. But in other places, it would be a nightmare to some community members. Chair recognizes Councilmember Bass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I could not agree with you more. And I love the idea of it. Listen, I love dining al fresco. I love an outdoor cafe. I love being out and, the vibrancy of it. But it has to work for the community in which it's in. It's got to be something that is embraced by the community in which it's in. And I get it that, listen, there should be enforcement tools that work, that can address when we have a problem business, to get them in line. It would be great if we could just say to a bad business, listen, get it together, or else we're going to send L&I out, or we're going to send Commerce out, or we're going to send, this one or that one out. They don't care. And they don't care because they don't get the level of enforcement that I believe that they deserve. And I just wanted to give you as an example, this is not a restaurant. I want to be clear on that. It's a smoke shop. But I just want to give you an example of a business that my staff, we did a community meeting around this bad business in early March. I want to say March 3rd or 4th of this year. And so we sent out a notice afterwards based on our findings when we went to this smoke shop, and they were operating with no license to operate, which is required, no certificate of occupancy, which is required. They had done construction without required permits. There was illegal signage. There was a sale of tobacco without a license, which is required. There was a sale of loose cigarettes, which is prohibited. They had tobacco sales on the same block as a school and a church, which is prohibited. They had a lack of heat and air circulation, which is required. There were exposed radiator pipes, which is a plumbing code violation. There were loose and exposed wires, which are an electrical code violation. There was drug paraphernalia, which is illegal, and they had the nerve to be operating 24/7. And so, like this is real. You can go right now to 5950 Ogons Avenue, and they closed that day, and they haven't been closed since then. And so we brought out L&I, we brought out all of the actors from the city of Philadelphia. Help us enforce, help us figure out what can we do about these bad actors who are really disrupting neighborhoods, commerce, just business in the on this little commercial corridor strip. And there has been nothing that has been done to stop this flow of activity at this business. And there's other activity as well that I'm not even going to get into right here and now. But we cannot get the level of enforcement that we need. And that's really what we're asking for. So I applaud, great businesses like yours. You're doing the right thing. You care about your neighborhood. You care about your community. You're not who we're talking about here. We're talking about somebody completely operating in a different fashion, so.
If I may, and Councilmember Bass and Chairperson Young, I just want to note that we, of course, at PRLA, and the industry, we understand your concerns, and we appreciate those concerns. I know we've had some offline conversations, Councilmember Bass. I know this is an issue you've been navigating for a while now, and we understand those concerns. As you guys have noted, and I know Councilmember Landau had noted earlier as well, there are good actors out there, and in any industry there are bad actors. As you might imagine, the type of operator and owner that oftentimes joins an association like ours over at PRLA, not only do they follow the rules, but that's part of the reason they join an association like PRLA, because they take the rules and the regulations and the laws that are on the books very seriously, and they work aggressively and assertively and double, triple check to make sure that they are following the rules. We've wrestled internally at the association, not just here in Philadelphia, but with members statewide as they've explored this conversation here at City Hall in Pittsburgh, in other regions like Harrisburg and Scranton, but even at the Capitol building in Harrisburg. We understand the stop and go issue. What we oftentimes, and you kind of alluded to this as it relates to the smoke shop, but it's applicable in other sectors of the economy as well, that oftentimes these operators are violating a whole host of rules that are already on the. We find some of these stop and goes are perhaps not even licensed in the first place. They might not have the permits they need. In many cases, they're serving folks that are underage. They're serving after hours. What we've reflected on at PRLA as we work with again legislators in Harrisburg, here at City Hall, in Pittsburgh, and elsewhere, is as new regulations and new rules are explored. In some cases, our members continue to follow those rules, but the bad actors continue to be bad actors. So, of course, we understand your concern, and I also wanted to just get on the record, if we could ever be a resource at the association, if we could ever be helpful. I know we've worked with you, Councilmember Bass. I know we've worked with Councilmember Squella and others on council to, where we can, help mitigate some of the pressures you all are seeing in your neighborhood and in your region. If we can, with a smoke shop, it might be more challenging, but if it's in the hospitality industry and if our industry leaders like Ryan and others, if we could ever be a resource, maybe even just making a connection, opening up a line of communication, we want to be, but we certainly understand your concern about bad actors and appreciate your comments about the good actors out there as well that are trying to follow the rules.
Thank you. And I do want to note that I understand how this process or these restaurants, these small businesses, for how much this can, allowing sidewalk cafes can increase the capacity for the business, right? Before I came to City Council, I represented small businesses in applying for these sidewalk cafes. So I know the process. Right? I understand how frustrating it can be. And I want to say that, when I'm out looking for restaurants, right, we actually look for, outdoor dining. We will look to see which restaurants has that vibrancy, has that customer base, right? You can say, oh, if it's crowded, it might be good. Let's try that out. But again, that's only in certain neighborhoods, right? It's only in certain areas, and it's not something that I think can be helpful throughout the entire city. And I think it's up to, again, I applaud these district council members who work with Councilmember Landau on this legislation to ensure that those communities where this will be a net positive have the ability to thrive. But we want to make sure that it is a net positive everywhere when we introduce or implement this type of legislation. So I just want to thank you all for being here today. Are there any other questions of these witnesses by members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony today. And Mr. Pullen, would you please call the next witnesses to testify?
The next witnesses to testify are Jess Coulter, Senior Vice President for Advancement and External Affairs for Visit Philadelphia, and Nate Hommel, Director of Planning and Design at University City District.
Thank you. Please just state your name for the record and begin with your testimony.
Hello, Jessica Coulter. I'm the Senior Vice President for Advancement and External Affairs at Visit Philadelphia. Good morning, Chairman Young and members of the committee. Visit Philadelphia's mission is to build Philadelphia's image, drive visitation, and spur the economic vitality of our region. On behalf of Visit Philadelphia, I'm here today to offer our support for Bill 251022, sponsored by Councilmember Landau. This is an important piece of legislation that seeks to simplify and expand the availability of by-right sidewalk cafes. This bill is a catalyst for economic equity and essential preparedness for our city's moment on the global stage in 2026. Making it easier for neighborhood businesses to open sidewalk cafes drives local vitality and increased foot traffic, which helps local businesses grow. By adding commercial corridors to the by-right zones for sidewalk cafes, this legislation levels the playing field, making it dramatically easier and more equitable for small businesses to add seating capacity. For many of these small establishments, an expanded footprint means increased sales, more stable staffing, and ultimately greater financial resiliency. A thriving sidewalk cafe scene transforms a street into a destination. And increased foot traffic means more vibrant commercial corridors for all of us. For our visitors, the opportunity to dine al fresco is precisely the kind of inviting, authentic, and memorable experience that defines a world-class city. This legislation ensures that tourists who explore Philadelphia beyond Center City and our historic core are invited into a lively atmosphere, hospitable neighborhoods, and encourage them to stay longer and spend more. However, this legislation can benefit more than just tourists. This expansion, combined with clear and consistent operating hours, significantly increases the quality of life for residents, fostering a more walkable, attractive, and community-focused commercial corridor right in their own neighborhood. Philadelphia will host several major events in 2026, welcoming a significant influx of global visitors and media attention. By passing this bill now, we send a clear signal that Philadelphia is open for business, and the increase in sidewalk cafe seats throughout the city will accommodate the large number of visitors expected. And more importantly, it will help to ensure that the economic impact of 2026 is distributed throughout the city, reaching neighborhood businesses that might otherwise have been overlooked. Visit Philadelphia urges the committee to vote in favor of Bill 251022 by removing unnecessary hurdles and establishing clear rules for buy right operation. We can support our small businesses, enhance our competitive appeal to visitors, and build a more vibrant and equitable city for everyone. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Hummel, please begin.
Ready?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Landau and Council Committee on Streets and Services for this opportunity to testify in favor of Council Bill 250-1022. Good morning, council members. My name is Nate Hummel, and I serve as the Director of Planning and Design for University City District, a partnership of local anchor institutions, real estate developers, and community stakeholders that works to improve the public realm and support our local economy. Part of what makes commerce in West Philadelphia and University City unique is a high number of family and immigrant-owned businesses, small businesses that sometimes require additional support to succeed. For the past 14 years, I have helped design, permit, and manage parklets, streeteries, and sidewalk cafes throughout University City. During the pandemic, these tools became vital lifelines for our small businesses, and I personally assisted several restaurants in navigating the current sidewalk cafe permit process. While the system works, it can require a separate council ordinance on top of the permit, which often adds many months of the timeline and complicates things for business owners trying to act as owners, operators, bookkeepers, and sometimes even cooks and servers. This bill changes that by making more areas of the city by right for sidewalk cafes, and as I understand it, Council District 3 would allow sidewalk cafes throughout the entire district. University City District strongly supports this. It will streamline approvals, reduce uncertainty for businesses, and give our restaurants a timely boost to set them up for success when all eyes will be on Philadelphia in 2026. Thank you for the opportunity to testify and for your work to strengthen our small businesses and public spaces.
Thank you both. Are there any questions of these witnesses? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Pullen, are there any other witnesses to testify on bill number 251022?
Can we get Benita Cummings and Peter McDermott?
Yeah. Thank you. Please state your name for the record. Begin with your testimony.
So good morning. Committee chairman and the members of the Streets Committee, thank you for having me here today. My name is Benita Cummings, and I am the director of Strawberry Mansion Community Concern. And I want to start out by saying that I've tried to do what is instructed to do to be a good citizen. And in that, I've tried to be a good employee of many years of which I spent in this body. I've tried to be a good mother and a good community leader. But one of the things that's very painful is that I cannot have my friends come into my community to a sidewalk cafe. I can't invite them because my neighborhood, Strawberry Mansion, along a commercial corridor, say from 29th Street at Diamond to Lehigh, would not be treated the same way as, say, Fairmont. So I'm living, although I've done what was asked of me to do, go to school, get educated, and all that kind of good stuff, I'm living trapped in my community, not with the ability to have these pleasures that other neighborhoods are having. So I just wanted to say that because I would love to have in my neighborhood the opportunity to go to dinner, even with my husband, to a sidewalk cafe, but we're not able to do that due to the nuisances, the type of businesses, and what would play out in my neighborhood would be takeovers, and business owners would not be able to control the people that would be sitting in outside of the sidewalk cafes. So I just wanted to say that I would hope that the business, the Commerce, African American Chamber and Hispanic Chamber and all of the chambers could really take a look at how to help a neighborhood like mine to be looked at in a way where businesses don't come near just to keep us marginalized, to keep us trapped in pockets of poverty, although we're not poor people. So I do appreciate this legislation, I really do, because I love it when I can come through other neighborhoods and see how other neighborhoods are blooming and people can sit out, and then my heart aches for my own community where we cannot do so. Because right now, L&I is overwhelmed with all kinds of things that this would just compound for them in my community of Strawberry Mansion. So I just wanted to add that because we're looking for help and an opportunity. And no legislation should be without community input. You know, this idea of by right. The smartest people in the room are the people who live there. And mostly because they know all the secrets. You know, they could tell you where that little hole is that, you know, you shouldn't go that way because you might fall down into something, or, you know, what went on over here and how often and things of that nature. So to bypass that just by posting a sign and not really making sure that the people see the sign and that they come to a meeting to help identify what would be a problem for them, I think it's not a good step. And, you know, residents should be respected more in terms of being able to have a voice in their community. So, you know, Councilman, I know you represent us here in the 5th District, and hopefully you will be able to bring to our neighborhoods, particularly of Strawberry Mansion, an opportunity to grow businesses that want to come and do the right thing, as been talked about here by some of the representatives. So I just thank you all for allowing me to have a voice today.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Cummings. Chair recognizes Councilmember Bass.
Thank you for your testimony. And I know, Ms. Cummings, that we've spoken before about the power of community input and community involvement.
Right.
And I think that for those of us who have excluded our district, that's really what this is about for us. The community should have the ultimate say.
Right.
About what happens in their neighborhood. And that's really what the exclusion is about. It's not about keeping out sidewalk businesses, because there is a process to get a sidewalk cafe operation going. What we're saying is that we just want you to go through that apparatus, and we want to work to improve it so that it doesn't take months and it doesn't take years. There's no reason that it should have to. So I think that this is something that, you know, we want to make sure, you know, is heard. We want to make sure people understand that we're not against sidewalk cafes at all. Like I said, I love an outdoor cafe, but it's got to be in the right space and the right place, and it cannot have a negative impact on the community in which it operates. And I'll just give you a quick example. So I represent Northwest Philadelphia, going up, starting at Broad and Lehigh. And so if you go up to Broad and Butler, and actually the intersection of Germantown and Butler, there is a little area that the city of Philadelphia, you know, we put in plants and benches, and it looks really nice in the middle of this commercial corridor, and Broad Street on one side and Germantown Avenue on the other. And there is a nuisance business at the corner of Germantown and Butler. And so in the summertime, if you drive by that location, all of their operation, from their horrible stop and go, all of their business is in that park. And so they've created sort of like an outdoor cafe on their own. And so it is totally taken over during warm weather months by the patrons of this particular stop and go, who just, you know, move the party on right on down into the park with the nice seating that we provided, and you know, the nice renovation, the fantastic look. But not the intention. It was supposed to be about bringing community together in a place, a gathering space for community, and it has turned into a gathering spot, AKA outdoor cafe, for a stop and go. So that's what we're trying to prevent from happening.
Right, and I understand that.
But we're going to continue to work with the community, and we're going to continue to make sure, first and foremost, that the community has a say.
And
Thank
that's
you.
important. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Because without a say,
yes,
you meet with death, and
Yes.
we do deserve better than
Yes.
that. And hopefully, again, my neighborhood will grow out of the marginalized state that it has been placed in from, disinvestment and all of the things that go with it. We're not poor people that should be trapped in poverty with nuisance businesses that already are so damaging to our young children. Our female children are being shot to death in these businesses and things like that. So I thank you for protecting us, having that concern for your districts respectively, because you are elected respectively in your districts, and that the people I know that are in your districts are thankful for you all to maintain their voice. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions of this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony. Is there anyone else in chambers wishing to testify on bill number 251022? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. Pullen, would you please call the title of the next bill?
Bill number 250946, titled Authorizing Encroachments in the Nature of a Sidewalk Cafe in the vicinity of 4435 through 37 Baltimore Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19104, under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Pullen. Please call the witnesses for this bill.
The first witness is testifier Noel Marconi, Legislative Affairs Director for the Department of Streets, and Sarah Chu, Development Director for the City Planning Commission.
Good afternoon now, Ms. Marconi and Ms. Chu. Please state your name for your record. Begin with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Young and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 250946, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. This bill authorizes Thomas F. Donatucci III and Robert Donatucci, the owners, to install, own, and maintain encroachment in the nature of a sidewalk cafe at Milk Crate Cafe, located at 4435-37 Baltimore Avenue. A total of 6 tables and 12 seats for a sidewalk cafe will be located along the north sidewalk of Baltimore Avenue, along the property line of 4435 Baltimore Avenue, and the east sidewalk of South 45th Street, along the property line of 4435 Baltimore Avenue. 4 tables and 8 seats will be located adjacent to the property line, leaving 9 feet of unobstructed footway. Another 2 tables and 4 seats will be located adjacent to the property line, leaving 6 feet, 6 inches of unobstructed footway. The Department of Streets is not opposed to this proposed encroachment, as the minimum unobstructed footway will be maintained. This concludes my testimony, and please answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Chu. Please state your name and give me your testimony.
Good morning, Chairmember Young and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner Manager with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 250946, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier on October 30th, 2025. This bill allows a sidewalk cafe at 4435 to 37 Baltimore Avenue. A minimum of 6 feet, 6 inches of clear sidewalk space is to remain after the installation. This will meet the complete street policy. The City Planning Commission, at its meeting on November 20th, 2025, recommended the bill number 250946 for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions of these witnesses on this bill? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Mr. Pullen, would you please read the title of the next bill?
Bill number 251028, titled Authorizing the Installation, Ownership, and Maintenance of Various Encroachments in the Vicinity of 510 North Christopher Columbus Boulevard, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19123, under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Pullen. Please call the witnesses.
The first witness is testifier Noel Marconi, Legislative Affairs Director for the Department of Streets, and Sarah Chu, Development Director for the City Planning Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Marconi. Please give me your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Young, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 251028, introduced by Councilmember Squilla. This bill authorizes 500 NCCB Unit A Fee Owner LLC, the owner, to install, own, and maintain encroachments in the nature of a building, access ramp, and elevator located in the vicinity of 510 Christopher Columbus Boulevard. The proposed building, ramp, and elevator will be located along along the property line of 500 North Christopher Columbus Boulevard and will encroach a distance of approximately 9 feet 4 inches towards the east along the west footway of North Columbus Boulevard. The Department of Streets is not opposed to these encroachments as 9 feet 7 inches of clear and unobstructed footway will be maintained. This concludes my testimony. Please answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Ms. Chu, please state your name and give me the testimony.
Good morning, Chairmember Young and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner Manager with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 251028, introduced by Councilmember Squilla on November 20th, 2025. This bill allows an existing ADA accessible pedestrian platform and building entrance steps, including a handicap lift at 510 North Christopher Columbus Boulevard. A minimum of 9 feet 6 inches of clear sidewalk space is to remain after the installation. This meets the Complete Streets policy. The City Planning Commission is scheduled to consider this bill at its meeting on December 4th, 2025, with a staff recommendation for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions of these witnesses on this bill? Is there anyone else in chambers wishing to testify on 251028? Seeing none. Thank you. Mr. Pullen, would you please read the title of the next bill?
Bill number 251025, titled Regulating the Direction of Movement of Traffic on Ryan Avenue between Leon Street and Frankfurt Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Pullen. Please call the witness.
The first witness to testify is Noel Marconi, Legislative Affairs Director for the Department of Streets.
Mr. Marconi, please begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Young and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 251025, introduced by Councilmember Driscoll. This bill establishes a one-way regulation on Ryan Avenue between Leon Street and Frankfurt Avenue, one-way eastbound. This is a capital project managed by PennDOT. Signage for the one-way regulation will be posted by a contractor as part of a PennDOT safety improvement project for Frankfurt, Ryan, and Cottman Avenues, with construction expected to begin in 2026. Department of Streets is not opposed to this one-way regulation. This concludes my testimony. Please answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Marconi. Are there any questions of this witness on this bill? Seeing none, is there anyone else in chambers wishing to testify on bill number 251025?
Peter McDermott is on the list.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record. Begin with your testimony.
How you doing? My name is Peter McDermott. I'm a board member of the Mayfair Community Development Corporation. I'm a board member of the Mayfair Civic Association, and I'm a lifelong resident of Mayfair. I have some exhibits here that I could share with you regarding this testimony.
Would the clerk, would the charge in orange please bring forth the documents?
This is a set. Yep.
We got one more.
Through the chair, it'll be easier to follow along with the handout. So this is a report from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission regarding the Frankfurt Avenue multimodal study. And it was a study, right? June 2021. If you flip through, it talks about when this study began. This Frankfurt Avenue multimodal study begins spring 2019. Where there was a series of community meetings that were going to be scheduled to make sure that everybody was engaged. I'm the only person here talking about it from the community, but everybody was supposed to be engaged, right? So if you look at going through these pages, there was a North Delaware District Plan, of which I was on the committee, where we were going to make sure that the zoning for this neighborhood was right, okay? And this is all prefacing this reversal of Ryan Avenue, where there was a lot of interactive groups where we had the North Delaware District Plan. It was 2035, right? And there was mention of this area, if you look at the one bullet point of which I'm in the picture, okay? It's page 6. We were going to create a gathering space at Frankfurt Avenue and Ryan Avenue. That's what we were talking about. We have like a little bit of a plaza there. We put a holiday tree up. We do a lot of interactive things there. We have night markets, okay? One of the problems with this reversal of Ryan Avenue, one of the problems, is we have a trackless trolley system up there, Route 66. Okay, it's one of the oldest operating systems in the country, of which there's only 5 of them operating, okay? Those trackless trolleys, which you can see on this exhibit here, have a turning radius of 44 feet, okay? I love math. 44 feet. Leon Avenue, or Leon Street, whatever we're gonna call it, is only 30 feet wide. So right now, the express service proceeds northbound up Cottman Avenue, makes a left onto Ryan Avenue, westbound, and it makes another left on the Leon, able to stay out nice and wide to make these turns, okay? And then it subsequently makes an additional left onto Cottman Avenue, nice and wide, big long turns. The proposed plan to make this street eastbound is gonna require that trackless trolley at 40 feet long with a turning radius of 44 feet to then make a left onto Cottman Avenue, of which there are no overhead wires which power these trackless trolleys. There are no overhead wires in that westbound lane on Cottman Avenue. That's gonna have to be added to this project. But even after it makes that turn, which will be no problem on Cottman Avenue, it is then gonna make a right on Leon. And this map is in there, by the way. There's a map in there from this report. It's the second to last page. So this trackless trolley will make a left off of Frankfurt onto Cottman, and then it'll attempt to make a right-hand turn on the Leon Street, which is 30 feet wide and has metered parking on one of the sides of the street and 2 lanes of traffic going northbound and southbound. How they're gonna attempt to do it, I don't know. I did it in my Ford Bronco Sport, very tight, and I did it in my Ford Edge, very tight, neither of which are 40 feet long, neither of which have a 44-degree turning radius, 44-foot turning radius, my apologies. And then it's gonna have to make a right on the Ryan Avenue to go back down towards the Market Frankfurt Transportation Center for the express service. Again, I like math. That don't add up. That does not add up. But the residents would have told them that if they ever had the third meeting, which they did not have, okay? So let's go back again. We talked about a gathering place at Ryan Avenue, okay? We didn't talk about reversing the street. We talked about gathering. If you look at the page after 6, or after 18, there's a page here that says public outreach. They had a whole section on it, public outreach. There was a meeting scheduled for the Thursday after, and we all know Philadelphia, we all love our shore points. A meeting scheduled for the Thursday after Memorial Day weekend, which had, I believe, 20 plus members at it, okay? No, 17, less than 20. So on the next page, public outreach, it talks about May 30th, 2019, 17 community members attended, 17. We have a pretty active area pre-COVID, okay? And we talked about then, one of the bullet points in the right-hand side says the westbound bike lane on Ryan Avenue between Frankfurt Avenue and Leon Street needs an eastbound pair. Listen, if that bike lane going westbound was actually utilized, maybe it would need an eastbound pair. Nobody uses it. And I mean nobody. If you ever want to fall asleep, sit out there with a clicker and count how many bikes go past it every day. The number will be easy. It's going to be a circular motion with a pen, 0. Nobody uses it. So how we need an eastbound lane when nobody uses the westbound lane, unless we have a flood of people coming from Rawhurst going to come into our area, I don't see it, okay? It's not used. It'd be like me putting a trapeze set in my backyard. It's not going to be used. Okay, I am not a trapeze artist, all right? But still, we're not talking about reversing Ryan Avenue. We weren't talking about reversing Ryan Avenue. We're talking about a westbound bike lane, okay? Now, the next page talks about public open house number 2. This is even more disturbing. So Public House Open House number 2 was scheduled for March 4th, 2020. Do we all know what happened in 2020? COVID. We know the city shut down about a week and a half later, okay? Now, 28 people showed up at that. Most of them were on their bicycles. Most of them didn't live in the area, but that's okay. This is a city, right? We do things at a greater size. The meeting was held at a place called Kings Highway Tavern. Not really inclusive for people that are in recovery. We shouldn't really be having a bar hosting a meeting on the first floor where people don't feel comfortable going to that have problems with addiction, that have problems being around places where they dispense drinks. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. But let's keep going, because there's a lot of bad ideas with this one, okay? If you look at the next page, it actually has a photograph inside the bar of where they had their easel set up with the display boards. Now, there is actually a function room in the basement of this where they could have held it, and people wouldn't have felt like they were compromised or impacted. Again, you look through this, I have it provided for you, and I can provide the link to the whole entire report. Nothing's talking about reversing the direction of Ryan Avenue, okay? Again, I want to mention that this trackless trolley system is a system with overhead catenary wires that support it. They energize these trackless trolleys. There are no lines on the Cottman Avenue block 3500. There are no lines going westbound to support this redirection of this express route. None whatsoever. Now they mentioned the Ryan Avenue reversal will alter express operations for Route 66, as I just talked about. In the proposed design, the northbound trolleys turn left onto Cottman Avenue, right onto Leon, right onto Ryan, and right onto Frankfurt Avenue for the same purpose. There was a gentleman who just retired who used to operate these things. He was a SEPTA transit worker. He operated them. He was hysterical laughing when I showed him this. But we have inclement weather. Okay? And it talks about how this was field tested and trolley turning radii will be incorporated into the final design. They're taking property. There's no other way to make these turns. They're gonna have to take property. They're gonna have to take the metered parking, which supports those stores in that commercial corridor, right? The proposed design, well, this is on page 55. The proposed design for the block of Ryan Avenue between Frankfurt Avenue and Leon Street replaces the existing westbound conventional bicycle lane with a two-way parking protected bike lane. In the short term, this bicycle facility will terminate at Frankfurt Avenue. Potential future expansion of the facility across Frankfurt Avenue would require additional intersection protections, such as conflict markings and a bicycle light. Okay. The last thing I want to touch on here is the very last page, where it says number 2, project context. If you look at the last shaded block, it says PennDOT Highway Safety Improvement Program, also known as HSIP, from spring 2019 to spring 2021. And it goes into depth about what they're gonna do and what they're not gonna do, right? At the bottom of this arrowed timeline, it says Public Meeting 1, May 30th, 2019, which I talked about. 17 people showed up. It was the week of Memorial Day at the Mayfair Community Center. The second meeting, which has a little star next to it, I don't know why, is at the Kings Highway Tavern, not inclusive for people in recovery that aren't gonna feel comfortable going there. The last meeting, if you look at it, says Public Meeting number 3, May 2020, location to be determined. The neighborhood were never heard. We never had the third meeting, ever. And as you can see from the text I provided you, we talked about a gathering place at Ryan Avenue, and we talked about a bicycle lane. We never talked about reversing the direction. Okay? This is going to greatly impact not only we have a senior population that are not going to get really acclimated to these traffic studies before they drive into buildings, because they're going to get panicked when people are coming at them that used to be going with them. I would ask that we look at this properly, re-engage the community, and let's get our third meeting minimally before we do something that's going to be irreversible. The reversal of the street is going to be irreversible. I mean, right now, this street works. Listen, I am fully on board with traffic calming measures. I'm fully on board with I have a 6-year-old, with reducing speeds. I am fully on board with making sure that we make Frankfurt Avenue, Cotman Avenue as safe as possible. I don't see how this does this. I hear about adding a bike lane, and I mean, if we have any kind of, we do actually, the Mayfair Business Improvement District has a camera system out there. So let's review the cameras and see how many people are using this bike lane, and if it's well-traveled, then maybe we do need another bike lane. But that doesn't mean we reverse the street and now put SEPTA in a bind for how they're gonna actually service riders. And this is a highly road, Route 66. It's in this package of the amount of people that travel Frankfurt Avenue, northbound and southbound. So I would like to see our community get a 3rd meeting before we start reversing streets. We never got it, okay? I know COVID happened. COVID happened 5 years ago. We could have scheduled a meeting in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. Now we're in 2025. We're at the end of 2025. The whole hallway's decorated for Christmas. This is not going to make a Merry Christmas for Mayfair. I appreciate you all. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Were you able to speak with the sponsor of the legislation regarding your concerns or issues?
I didn't, no.
Okay, thank you. I would suggest, to reach out to the sponsor of the legislation to express, the concerns.
Okay.
The district council member.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so
Thank you.
much. Are there any other questions of these witnesses regarding this bill, 251025? Seeing none, thank you all. Is there anyone else in chambers wishing to testify on 251025? Seeing none, Mr. Pullen, would you please read the title of the next bill?
Bill number 250982, titled Regulating the Direction of Movement of Traffic on Certain Portions of LeCount and Banbury Streets under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Pullen. Would you please call the witnesses to testify on this bill?
The first witness to testify is Noel Marconi, Legislative Affairs Director for the Department of Streets.
Ms. Marconi, please begin with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Young and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 250982, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier on behalf of Council President Johnson. This bill establishes a one-way regulations on LeCount Street between South Street and Bainbridge Street, one-way northbound, and Bainbridge Street between South Street and Bainbridge, one-way northbound. The Department of Streets is not opposed to these one-way regulations, as these direction changes will eliminate cut-through traffic and ensure safer and efficient traffic circulation. Directional signage has already been installed and will remain in place. This concludes my testimony, and please answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions of this witness regarding this bill? Seeing none, Mr. Pullen, is there anyone else here to testify on this bill? Thank you. Please state your name for the record and begin with your testimony.
Ashley Lapira, and then my husband.
David Bernhack.
We live outside we live at the house where all the accidents kept happening. I work as an ICU nurse, so I kept having to go out, be late for work. Let me see. So basically, we just kept having people get hit outside our house, and I kept being late to work, and I had to keep stabilizing all these people, and I kept having to watch people get broken bones, get intracranial bleeds, and then go to work and then stabilize other people. But I couldn't even sleep because I worked night shift. So I'd hear people get hit outside my house. It was almost like a baby monitor. And people were getting hit, pedestrians, children, everybody. Whether you were on a bike, you were a pedestrian, everybody's just getting hit. So we'd have to go outside and stabilize them. My husband's not even in the medical field, and now he knows how to hold C-spine and T-spine and do a Glasgow coma scale, assess someone's neurological status. So we were just doing this for 2 years, and finally we got this street direction changed. So please don't change it back. Please keep it the same, because I'm moving. So now, since we got the street changed, there's been no accidents. It used to be people were getting hit once a day, a couple times a week, and it was just constant. And so I'm gonna be moving, so there's not gonna be a nurse or a doctor at that area anymore to stabilize anybody. So, yeah, please do not move it back, because it takes sometimes 15 minutes for the ambulance to come. So, that's it.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do believe that this legislation will legalize the changes that have already been made to keep it the current direction that it's in now.
Hooray.
I just want to make that clear for the record. Are there any questions of these witnesses on this bill? Seeing none, is there anyone else in chambers wishing to testify on bill number 250982? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now transition. Mr. Pullen, is there anyone on the public comment list?
There are no speakers on the public comment list.
Thank you. So I would like to thank all of our witnesses for joining us today. We will now end the public hearing and go into the public meeting. I note for the record that a quorum of the committee is present. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to bill number 251028.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer the amendment to bill number 251028. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to bill number 251028 be adopted.
Thank you. The bill has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Bill number 251028 has been, the amendment to bill number 251028 has been adopted. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to bill number 251022.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer an amendment to bill number 251022. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to bill number 251022 be adopted.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to bill number 251022 be adopted. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. The amendment to bill number 251022 has been adopted. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on bills numbers 250843, 250946, 250982, 251022 as amended, 251025, and 251028 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bills number 250843, 250946, 250982, 251022 as amended, 251025, and 251028 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended and submit the first reading at the next session of council.
Second. Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that bill numbers 250843, 250946, 250982, 251022 as amended, 251025, and 251028 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit for his reading of these bills at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes have it. Bills number 250843, 250946, 250982, 251022 as amended, 251025 as amended, 251028 as amended. I'm sorry, 251025 and 251028 as amended will be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation. With further request that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading at the next session of council. This concludes the business before the Committee on Streets and Services. Thank you all for being here today.